What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about 5 things I'm excited for when it comes to Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. We obviously got a lot of previews, a lot of new information, some info we already knew, but also some new stuff, and I tried to look through as many as I could. I did get excited when I saw things like combat and, different changes or upgrades that they've kind of done to this game over Like a Dragon, and so I wrote them down. I kind of want to just bring it to your attention for this video. So first thing I'm excited for, and I've talked about this before in my Will Kiryu Die video, but it's Kiryu's story. Now, not just for the ending, right? You can say, well, obviously that's going to bring a lot of us into this game, wanting us to finish this game, right? Like, what is going to happen to this man? Is he going to make it, or, whatever? And again, I talked about the entire video, but the second part to it that really came because of these previews, it seems like a lot of his story is flashback heavy, but not in like typical flashbacks, right? A lot of the gameplay that we've seen from these previews involve going to a location and kind of triggering a memory, and the memory is gonna, maybe it's like a slideshow kind of thing that just brings him back to something that's happened to him in previous games. I didn't know, and I think that's new. I think we just found that out like in the last week or so. I don't remember seeing that, but regardless, that is very, very exciting. And while we talk about, this is the last game, and, that feature kind of makes it more certain to me that it really could be Kiryu's last game, because it's so nostalgia heavy, right? We're gonna constantly be going back into kind of his greatest hits, not necessarily in terms of like happy memories. Some of them will be, but some of them I assume would be pretty dark too. Maybe like things with Nishiki and things, maybe even Yumi, right? So a lot of those things are probably gonna bring back like dark, depressing memories. But I think that's gonna be a very emotional thing to do, and I believe the way it was talked about is it's kind of a side thing. It might get introduced in a main mission, like a story mission, but the idea of going around and triggering these memories at certain locations, that's like a side activity that you go around the world and you do. And when you do that, I believe it adds to his strength. That's kind of how you level him up for fighting and his different moveset and stuff. So very exciting, not just his actual story in the, main campaign, but then the side stuff that involves him as well. Second thing is, let's just talk about the improvements to fighting. I knew they were coming. We had seen some of them, but then getting to see so many, I guess, dozens of minutes, of unique gameplay from the preview. The combat looks awesome. Now, the combat, I think, is really, really good. It's definitely, it's not, I don't even know if you can call it like an acquired taste. It's something that you either like or you don't like, right? I think it's totally fine and fair if you don't like the fighting style of Like a Dragon versus what we had previously gotten, because they are two separate things. But I personally liked it. I think they did a good job of making a turn-based combat or turn-based fighting style in the Yakuza, franchise. And the additions and improvements in this game really, like, they feel a lot better. Just the basic idea that you can move around, right? Now, you're limited. You can't move around like crazy, but you can move around within a certain region. It's easier to, like, tag team. The menus are cleaned up. Now, I would have preferred them to not copy Persona so obviously. The tabs, the skills and attack and things very much looks like they just ripped that off from Persona, but regardless, and I guess they're both Sega, so maybe that makes sense, but it does look cleaner. Everything looks cleaner. The idea of tag teaming and just how they put things in the menu, and then the movement and the new attacks. Like, there's a lot of new jobs, and I want to talk about that later on in this video, but there's a lot of smaller things, I think. Lining up attacks, like where you can kind of line up, okay, well, if I attack from this angle, I'm only going to get one of them, but if I just move maybe a little bit to my right, I can kind of get a line of them. That is very helpful, and that is something that, and I'll tell you, having just played Like a Dragon, finished it a few days ago at this point, that makes me very happy, because you'd almost have to get lucky to get honestly, I don't even know how you trigger the grabbing up of just things on the street, right? Like using random items to attack. That also felt like luck in Like a Dragon. Your character kind of just had to decide to pick up the chair and start whacking the enemy, right? So the fact that it's a little bit more programmed in, that makes me very happy. That's number 2. Number 3, and this one's small, but you know what? To me, it's actually quite big. The sensitivity of enemies on the street. So this, and I think it was maybe IGN that talked about this in their preview, and it's the first time I heard it, and I was like, oh my god, thank the freaking Lord, because, again, having just played Like a Dragon, I'm sure you guys know it too from being, a diehard, enemies are very sensitive, and it's actually not just a Like a Dragon thing. Yakuza, just in general, many of the games, there was a few that didn't do it, but most games, I think, had too many enemies, had them, you could be on just like the skinniest street of all time, and there'd be a group of enemies, and you can't hide from them. You can't wait them out. They're just always going to kind of be there. And so you'd end up getting into fights that you really didn't want to get into, right? So I'm getting at what this point is, IGN, I believe they're the ones, had declared that enemies are nowhere near as sensitive. And in fact, I think when they said this in their preview video, on that wheelie thing that you can unlock for movement in this game, they drove right by a group of enemies. And when I say right by, I mean within maybe like 2 to 5 feet of them. Now, in the last game, they would have immediately got you, right? You would have been into a fight. In this game, they did. I think they lit up yellow, so it was close, right? Like if you stayed there for a couple more seconds, it would have went red and you would have, jumped into the fight. But I am so thankful for that, because now it's more you fight if you feel like it, right? If you want to target higher enemies as well, I think are like color coded now, right? So that's something, and it's okay. Now you can kind of pick your battles. Now you don't have to fight like 5,000 of them. And even before IGN said that, from the gameplay that I had seen these outlets, show, it seems like there's just less enemies on the street, period. Number 4, I want to talk about the jobs and bonds. So that's another improvement, I believe. Improvement / like change. Like the jobs, I don't necessarily know if they've been improved. Maybe how you get them, right? So the talk is basically it's more of like a vision. You see something happening in front of you. And Kiryu did this. I don't remember which Yakuza game it was. It was kind of like in the middle portion of them, I think. But it was that arc where you saw something play out, like, it's just an activity on the streets, and then you kind of get inspiration, and now you get that as a move set. And that's how Kiryu did it, right? In this game, it's pretty similar. You see something play out as Ichiban, and then you say, oh, okay, and there's like a cut scene, and he kind of is learning how to do that specific thing, and then you have the job. And I think you have to there's like a tour guide system where you pay money and it brings you to different places on the island, and then you can go around, and that's how you get these jobs in the first place. So I guess that's the improvement or addition, and I guess you don't know if it's an improvement yet. It's definitely an addition to it, and the jobs themselves just look really cool, right? Like that was such a cool part of Like a Dragon, that you could get very familiar with the combat that you were doing, and then you could just change to a completely different fighting style, and everything kind of changes, right? Like your entire technique kind of changes just based off the job. So I'm really happy not just to see them returning, but different jobs that still look, really, really cool. And then how you get them has been, again, added to, where it's not you going to like the service desk, right, to just change your job. Now it's more like in the world, you're seeing it happen. And then the final thing to talk about is actually the island minigame. In minigame, I'm using that very, very lightly. It's basically the island management, right? Animal Crossing style. So, playing the business management game in Like a Dragon, I actually really, really liked it. And then you think, okay, well, these games always kind of go bigger than the one before it. So what are they going to do for this one? It makes sense to remove going to a desk and entering just this, different menu and going through this, business thing. And now you go to an island and you completely manage it. It still has the daily tasks. It still, I imagine, is going to have, you leveled up, right? Like your island raised a tier, and because of that, you get money, and then your island also gets money. I'm sure it's going to have systems very similar to the management game in Like a Dragon, but this one, and I'll tell you this, this one's not for me. I'm not a big Animal Crossing guy. I'm not a big I do like management, but I don't know if I like this kind of management. So my wife is very much into this. I'm going to try to force her into managing my island and making it really cool. But I mean, all of the features that they've talked about, visiting other people's islands, right? Just they're doing some outrageous stuff, and they always have like multiple games inside of a game. But for this, they literally have Animal Crossing just built in, and that's like a side thing. That can take you hundreds of hours, but then you can also do like the rest of the game, which is also maybe hundreds of hours. So those are 5 things that stood out to me. Obviously, I mean, the entire game looks incredible, and I think it's going to be a Game of the Year contender, honestly, when it comes out. But those are things that stuck out to me. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.